I'm Tim Owens, the longtime producer of jazz at National Public Radio and creator of NPR's Peabody Award-winning Jazz Profiles, a radio documentary series on the people, places, and things in jazz. The Jazz Profiles shows, nearly 200 of them, are part of the Tim Owens Jazz and Broadcast Collection at the University of North Texas Music Library. In a partnership with the 32 Bar Blues Foundation, we've picked a handful of noteworthy shows to share with you. With my gratitude to the many producers who helped make the series possible, and a special thanks to the series host Nancy Wilson, we hope you'll enjoy this presentation of Jazz Profiles.
It seemed just like another night at the Persian Club on Chicago's South Side in the winter of 1958. A young pianist and his bass player and drummer had become fixtures at the club, a place where people came to do some serious listening.
But it was his room. I mean, very few people came there just to drink or just to hang out. You went there to hear Ahmad Jamal.
Chicago-based pianist Ramsey Lewis.
Ahmad Jamal's music reached out and touched people, both in the heart and in the foot. You almost never went to see Ahmad Jamal play and didn't see heads bobbing and feet tapping.
This night at the Pershing would be special. A team of engineers from Chess Records had set up earlier in the day, and when they rolled tape on the first of 43 tunes to be played that evening, the magic began. And with it, a bit of recording history.
Three people doing three different things, putting three voices together, musical voices, coming up with the perfect record.
Ahmad Jamal's album, But Not For Me, would remain on Billboard magazine's Top 100 Albums chart for the next 108 weeks, the longest any jazz recording had sustained such popular success. Ahmad Jamal was on his way. I'm Nancy Wilson. On this edition of Jazz Profiles, a portrait of a pianist who tamed bebop without taking away the fireworks.
Well, he's not a real big guy. He's a little small guy, but man, when he sits down and hits that piano, you think it's like 20 guys, you know. I mean, with the strength that he projects into the piano. You know, if he wants forte or triple forte, he gets it. You know, he just hits a note, hit the chord, and you can hear it all over the place.
Tenor saxophonist George Coleman recently recorded with Ahmad Jamal and was impressed by the big and bolder sound of Jamal today. It's a sound that has developed over 5 decades of jazz, but without drifting from the core of his approach to the piano trio: discipline, unity, and space. Ahmad Jamal's success at the Pershing in the late 1950s was no accident. For many, his disciplined approach was a refreshing break from the frenetic styles of many of the bebop-oriented groups of the day. Ahmad Jamal was creating a new meaning to the concept of the trio. Chicago-based jazz writer Neil Tesser.
That particular performance sort of encapsulated everything that Ahmad Jamal was about in terms of the refusal to overemphasize the busy, technical, virtuosic aspects of the piano. This was a trio that, while Ahmad Jamal's piano was clearly the lead instrument, the whole thing sounded as if he was playing all three instruments.
Writer Bob Blumenthal.
he presented the trio as a mini orchestra where each instrument in effect could operate as a section, and you really had to hear what all three were doing. The music wasn't created as a way that you played the melody to set up the piano soloist. It was more of an ongoing interaction among the three musicians.
Bass player James Kamak, who began working with Ahmad Jamal in 1983.
Ahmad has a tremendous command, not only of the piano itself, but the music itself. He has the ability to convey what he wants at the moment. And it's very, very strong. It's much stronger than almost any other piano player I've ever encountered. His sense of arrangement, spontaneous arrangement, is incredible. I mean, I've never worked with anyone like that has that ability to just arrange and compose on the spot with that kind of depth and that kind of insight without forethought.
In the 1950s, Ahmad Jamal was credited for breathing new life into the jazz trio by creating space within the music he played. His performances pulled back from the well-established and somewhat crowded style of contemporary jazz in the late 40s and 50s and left room for silence. Ramsey Lewis.
He's one of the few pianists, few musicians, I should say, who use space as emphatically as he used notes. And quite often it was what he didn't play that blew you away. It was not unusual for Ahmad Jamal to start a song out and play the first 2 or 3 bars of the melody, or sometimes he'd play the first 2 or 3 bars of a solo, and then he wouldn't play anything for maybe 3, 4 bars or more. And you would hear the rhythm section, you'd hear the bass and the drums carrying on.
My approach was one of a great deal of discipline. People like to refer to it as space or whatever, but I know it to be something else. My definition, what I was doing, the one that was involved with certain disciplines. And that's the difference in my approach as opposed to the approach of some of my colleagues.
Despite the fact that Ahmad Jamal has worked primarily with small ensembles, at another level, he is always working with a bigger band. Even if his only accompaniment is a bass player and drummer, his audiences get to hear much more than a trio. When bassist James Kamak accompanies Ahmad Jamal, he hears a full orchestra.
The way he voices chords and passages, it's like not too many pianists operate like this. It's usually a right hand or a left hand. Ahmad's playing is everything. I mean, the whole keyboard, from the bottom of the piano to the top of the piano. And it's like the bottom of the music spectrum. From the tubas, you hear tubas, and then you hear soprano, saxophone, or you hear the high-pitched violins at the top, trilling, and everything in between. So it's like a big band. It's like an orchestra. Sometimes it's like an orchestra.
I have orchestras, either small or large. They're still my orchestras, whether it's a duo or whether it's 3, 4, 7. They're my orchestra, so everybody is actively involved, and I think orchestrally. I like to use every member to full extent.
The childhood years of one of America's greatest jazz pianists didn't begin with jazz, although there was plenty around him. Ahmad Jamal was immersed in the European classics. Encouraged by his mother, Ahmad Jamal began playing piano at age 3. At age 7, he began studying a wide range of music under Mary Caldwell Dawson, the founder of America's first black opera company. Violinist Joe Kennedy still remembers those childhood years.
We both were kids. We attended the Mary Caldwell Dawson School of Music in Pittsburgh. My mother would lead me by the hand to take violin lessons on Saturday. Ahmed's mother would lead him by the hand.
Ahmad Jamal continued his piano studies into his teens, where he was introduced to a wide range of music, both classical and jazz. It's perhaps in the study of these musical forms where his sense of swing and musical discipline came together.
If you study Bach there, you study Tatum. You study Tatum, you study Bach. You learn Duke Ellington along with Mozart. We didn't have that junk that says, oh, I play classical pianist, or I'm a classical artist as opposed to a jazz artist. We're all in the same category, learning good music as opposed to bad. That's it. So that was my training ground, but one of the best in the world.
In the 1940s, Pittsburgh was bursting with the sounds of jazz. It may have been overshadowed by New York, Kansas City, and New Orleans, but Pittsburgh was an incubator for scores of some of the best-known jazz artists of the 30s, 40s, and 50s.
You know, you're talking about Kenny Clark, you're talking Art Blakey, Joe Harris, Dona Mamarosa, Earl, Mary Lou Williams, and myself all went to the same high school. I sold papers to Billy Strayhorn's family when I was 7 years old.
As a young performer still in his teens, Ahmad Jamal hung out at the Black Musicians Local 471, a gathering place for many Pittsburgh musicians and guests. One frequent guest was Art Tatum, who by the late 40s had already turned the standards of jazz piano upside down through his speed and sense of harmonics. By the time he was 14, Ahmad Jamal was jamming on the same stage as Art Tatum, who couldn't help but be impressed by the teenager. Violinist Joe Kennedy Jr.
Art Tatum heard him, and at the end of Ahmed's performance, he said, that is indeed a genius that you will hear about, the world will hear about him. And Art Tatum was right.
But for all the wizardry that went into Art Tatum's playing, Ahmad Jamal was even more impressed by a local pianist who was drawing national attention, Errol Garner.
Well, Earl was one of my major inspiration. Not one, he was my major inspiration. I don't know if there's any similarity. I mean, my approach is different from Earl, but that was one of my influences when I was coming up.
Other individuals and groups would make their mark on Ahmad Jamal, including Nat Cole and the light, breezy sound of bassist and bandleader John Kirby.
And these two groups, I think, set the pattern for everyone operating in a small group context. Trio, 4 pieces, 5 pieces, John Kirby, and then Nat Cole. I don't think there's any of us that didn't use those models, particularly Nat when it came to trios.
Yet while Ahmad Jamal was focused on Errol Garner and Nat King Cole in the late 40s and early 50s, much of the jazz world was listening to a very different style of pianist, Bud Powell. Writer Neil Tesser.
Ahmad Jamal began to really create a name for himself in the early to mid 1950s, and at that time the prevalent sound of jazz piano could really be rooted, I think, in 2 figures. One being Bud Powell, the genius of bebop, who had brought such an extraordinary intensity, both emotional and technical, to the music. and then Oscar Peterson. So you had these two examples of very intense, busy, virtuosic, explosive piano playing. And here's Ahmad Jamal, who is doing everything much more quietly. Ahmad Jamal kind of steps back and says, well, you know, maybe there's room for some other things here. There's some room for some space. And in a way, Ahmad Jamal is one of the best and one of the earlier jazz minimalists.
Miles Davis said, he said, he lets you feel the rhythm section and he lets the rhythm section feel you.
Writer Bob Blumenthal notes that Ahmad Jamal was not alone in his pursuit of a less crowded sound. A similar path was being traveled by Thelonious Monk.
But I think the reason that Monk and Jamal just stood out so boldly at the time was that the innovations in jazz in the 1940s had really moved toward harmonic complexity and technical virtuosity, and chords were flying by and notes were flying by as people were running the chord changes, and the music was getting very dense and in some instances very crowded. And I think what both Monk and Jamal realized was that you don't create drama just by piling one idea on top of another, that the tension that really is part and parcel of swing can be created just as easily or as profoundly by what you don't play as by what you play.
Ahmad Jamal's 1952 recording of A Gal in Calico. This is NPR's Jazz Profiles with a tribute to pianist Ahmad Jamal. I'm Nancy Wilson.
From blues to bluegrass, jazz to country, R&B to rock and roll, we're moved by the proud sound of American music. Welcome to 32 Bar Blues, a fresh groove in the men's clothing world, a place where true originality, craft, and style are valued like the art forms we celebrate. Never curated or private labeled, we design and make the majority of our styles in-house. Cool clothes with enough funk or personality to make you smile, but easy to wear for most any venue. And like our name implies, 32 Bar Blues was born with a heart for the arts. Since our first collection in 2012, we featured more than 100 musicians, writers, and photographers on our pages, giving all profits from the sale of their work directly to them. We also promote a handful of nonprofit arts organizations that deserve extra support. To check out the 32 Bar Blues collection and learn more about our commitment to the arts, visit 32barblues.com.
In 1948, Ahmad Jamal got his first real job as a pianist in the George Hudson Orchestra. The pay wasn't great, and the music was mostly for dancing, but it provided his first opportunity to work professionally. A year later, Joe Kennedy Jr. brought him into his group, the Four Strings.
What happened, we needed someone as pianist to read and concentrate on reading because of the nature of the assignment. So we said, well, we would have to get a replacement for this studio work. And Edgar Willis and Ray Crawford said, we know just the person.
With little experience and no reputation, the Four Strings took to the road and left the safety net of Pittsburgh.
And we couldn't get any work, of course. In Chicago, we went there and starved to death almost. It became the Three Strings after Joe went home with Ray Crawford, Tommy Sewell, who was the bass player of record then, and myself. Then later on, Eddie Calhoun joined me, and then later on, Israel Crosby joined me.
The first real attention to Ahmad Jamal came with his group, the Three Strings, with Israel Crosby on bass and Ray Crawford on guitar. Ahmad Jamal's tight arrangements matched perfectly with guitarist Ray Crawford's percussive style. The sound was borrowed from the successful guitar, bass, piano sound of the Nat Cole Trio, but with some striking differences, most notably the ability of Ray Crawford to turn his guitar into a set of congas. Writer Neil Tesser.
There were times that you thought that Ray Crawford was, in fact, the bongo player on the date, because he would go to the upper harmonics of the instrument, those bell-like tones that you see guitarists get by pushing their hands up towards the top of the neck and then very lightly touching the strings. And he would get those bell-like tones and then strum them with his fingers of his right hand as if it was a bongo skin. And some of those recordings really sound like there is a percussionist of that ilk on them.
Crawford's unique style would be adapted by many other jazz guitarists later in the 50s and 60s. Darn That Dream, from chamber music of the new jazz, with Ahmad Jamal on piano, Ray Crawford on guitar, and Israel Crosby on drums. It was this album that first attracted the attention of trumpeter Miles Davis. Like Jamal, Miles Davis too was moving away from the busy sound of the beboppers, and he liked what he heard in the young piano player from Pittsburgh, bass player Jamil Nasser.
Because he heard people before almost anybody, you know. When he listened, he really listened. And what he heard from Ahmad was the orchestra that Ahmad has, you know, under his fingers. That's what Miles heard. He heard the voicings, he heard the concept, he heard the intensity, he heard the whole ball of wax that I'm talking about now. So Miles was one of those sharp people that wasn't too hip to say, this is the way I want to go. And he said it openly.
Tunes like Billy Boy, Surrey with a Fringe on Top, and A Gal in Calico had become part of the Ahmad Jamal repertoire. And the more Miles listened to Ahmad, the more he was drawn to the lean style that became the trademark of Ahmad Jamal's trio. At one performance of the trio in Cleveland, Miles left the audience, grabbed a stool, and came on stage to listen more closely to the trio's sound. Soon, the same songs began showing up on Miles Davis recordings, and Miles gladly gave credit to the source of his inspiration. Billy Boy from the Miles Davis recording, Milestones, with Red Garland on piano, Paul Chambers on bass, and Philly Joe Jones on drums. By 1958, Miles Davis had grown so fond of Ahmad Jamal's arrangements, he was heard once saying, "All my inspiration today comes from Ahmad Jamal." Writer, Neil Tesser.
Here was Miles looking for certain things and starting to find them on his own, and I think recognizing a kindred spirit in Ahmad Jamal. I have no doubt that Miles Davis would have gotten to where he needed to get had he never heard Jamal. But when he did hear him, he recognized a kindred spirit, and I think that found someone who, in fact, in this one area had already moved a little further ahead of where Miles was at the time. And so he found it very useful to use some of those ideas and to apply them to a larger group, his quintet, and to his great credit, give Ahmad Jamal a lot of the credit for these innovations and really help raise Jamal's stock in the general eye of the critics and the public.
In 1957, Davis had arranger Gil Evans transcribe, note for note, Jamal's composition New Rumba for his Miles Ahead release on Columbia. The Gil Evans transcription was the ultimate compliment for the trio.
He heard the same thing I heard from his records, listening to Miles. It's a mutual admiration society. He heard the admirable things that come from a guy who's been around as long as Miles has been around, and he heard the admirable things that comes from a guy like me who's been around. He heard pulse, he heard pace, he heard a selection of choice material. He heard all those things.
New Rumba, transcribed from the original Ahmad Jamal recording by Gil Evans and performed by Miles Davis. Still ahead, the impulse years of Ahmad Jamal. I'm Nancy Wilson, and this is Jazz Profiles from NPR, National Public Radio.
Born from the 32 Bar Blues clothing brand, the nonprofit 32 Bar Blues Foundation was established in 2020 to promote American music, literature, photography, and the artists that create within these genres. Jazz, blues, and roots music are of particular focus, all uniquely American art forms that should be nurtured and advanced for the benefit of future generations. Toward these goals, 32 Bar Blues Foundation seeks out and partners with nonprofit arts organizations that provide education, training, opportunity, support, and exposure. Young and emerging artists, as well as established and lesser-known greats, are of equal focus. Through direct 32 Bar Blues corporate support and donations, customer donations, and all profits received from special clothing items and other partner products in the 32 Bar Blues collection, seasonal contributions go directly to the artists and organizations noted in the Arts section of the 32 Bar Blues website. To date, 32 Bar Blues Foundation has contributed more than $200,000 to its nonprofit partners and provided millions of full-page impressions in the 32 Bar Blues catalog. For more information about 32 Bar Blues and its foundation, visit 32barblues.com and click The Arts or go to 32barbluesfoundation.org.
In the mid-1950s, guitarist Ray Crawford left the Ahmad Jamal Trio and was replaced by a drummer, Vernell Fournier. Israel Crosby remained as the talented bassist. The unique musings of Crawford's percussive guitar were gone, but the trio was tighter than ever. Drummer, Vernell Fournier.
At that time, we were working like maybe 50 weeks out of the year, so we had a understanding of each other musically that was astounding. He would do something, I knew exactly which way he was going, even though he maybe hadn't done that before, but I knew what direction he was going into, so it was easy to follow. He never told me what to play. I can't remember him saying, do this or do that. It was always, I knew I was doing right when I'd get a smile or a wink or some sort of thing telling me that everything was all right, you know. It was a rapport that I haven't had since then, not with anyone.
Still, Ahmad Jamal was frustrated by the lack of respect the group was getting in jazz clubs, especially on the road. One incident at the Embers Club in New York finally convinced him to get off the road.
Historically, everybody used to work there. I worked there as an intermission artist with a lot of noise and nonsense to put up with, and someone came up and sat a glass of wine on the piano and spilled it, drunk. After I saw this red wine against the ivory keys, I jumped up and went downstairs, put on my coat, and Israel and I drove all the way back to Chicago. When I went into Pershing and asked the owner there, Miller Brown, I want to become an artist in residence.
In July of 1958, Ahmad Jamal turned 27 years old. His trio had influenced many, but despite the recognition from his peers, he was still not a household name in jazz. That all changed 5 months later.
Was subject to a lot of criticism. Oscar Peterson was subject to a lot of criticism. The people we think of now as defining the period, who had very strong personalities but did it their way, were often criticized because their way wasn't the same as the other way. Thelonious Monk, let's talk about him. He was put down for 10 or 15 years and people said he couldn't play the piano. And now he's the standard of creative excellence. So I think we all have to grow in terms of our openness to different approaches to music.
Surprisingly, only a year after the monstrous success of the album But Not For Me, Ahmad Jamal disbanded his trio and left the performance scene. He traveled around the world and then returned to the United States to open a club and restaurant. It was one of several attempts to get out of the business of jazz.
I love music, I hate the business. So I've broken up many times. I hate this business. I don't know any body who's done any great things in this business who doesn't exit. Miles exited for 7 years. And Thelonious said, forget about it. I'm sick of it. I'm going home. And he didn't come out anymore. That's the way it goes.
But Ahmad Jamal came roaring back in the late 60s with a new trio. With Frank Gant on drums and Jamil Nasser on bass, the new trio had a different sound, a new level of intensity. Bob Blumenthal wrote the liner notes for the album which brought together the best of what became known as the Impulse years for Ahmad Jamal.
First of all, when he reorganized his trio in the 60s and had Jamil Nasser and Frank Gant, I think he showed an openness to a lot of the new ideas that were going on in jazz and started incorporating what some other people were doing. And he started playing more piano, if you will, in the sense of playing more notes and using the modal structures in ways that had developed beyond what he had done in the 50s. So I think he showed more intensity in his piano playing.
Bassist Jamil Nasser.
When I was in the group, we had to go to the gym every day. You know, we all took our Y cards and we had to be in shape both physically and mentally. because when he turned it up a notch, it became much more physical. And mentally, you had to be there too, because the arrangements became much more intricate. He's still following that trend today. I mean, I look back on some of the stuff we were playing then, and I wonder, how did I do that? I was in shape, you know, and it demanded that you be in shape.
Talk to anyone who's ever accompanied Ahmad Jamal and ask them what challenges he creates for a percussionist or bass player, and the response is the same. Expect the unexpected. Bassist James Kamak.
And it's pretty intense because I'm always under the gun to really listen intently, very, very intently to the song, and to also be able to read him, what he's going to do with it. And a lot of times I describe it as kind of riding a wave.
Antonio Carlos Jobim's Wave, performed by Ahmad Jamal on piano, Jamil Nasser on bass, and Frank Gant on drums in 1970. It was this same group that went on to perform at the 1971 Montreux Jazz Festival.
Tous deux seront pendant 1 heure environ les partenaires du pianiste Ahmad Jamal.
Thank you very much. Here's a composition written by Mr. Richard Evans. It's about a city in South America. This one is called Bogota.
Montreux is one of those that stick out in my mind because the group was peaking then. You know, we used to have peaks, and that was at the top of one of those peaks. And once we get there, then you could expect that he's going to come up with something else, and we're going to go somewhere else and make another peak, you know.
Of the more than 50 recordings Ahmad Jamal has made in his 5 decades of piano playing, his most successful efforts have been before live audiences. Bassist James Kamak has played on a number of those recordings, including this 1992 live concert in Paris.
Well, the live recordings, I feel, are situations where you can really catch him really being adventurous. He's much freer, I think, in a live setting. There's no restrictions. Let's pull all the stops out and let's go for the music. I like to call it controlled recklessness, almost.
Tenor saxophonist George Coleman.
You know, he will entertain an audience. You know, he's not going to be so wrapped up into what he's doing that he's going to lose the audience. And when it was quite evident when I heard him recently at Carnegie Hall, the crowd was transfixed.
Ahmad Jamal's The Tube, from his Live in Paris '92 recording, featuring James Kamak on bass guitar and David Bowler on drums. You're listening to NPR's Jazz Profiles. I'm Nancy Wilson. While Ahmad Jamal has performed primarily in jazz ensemble settings, he's also experimented with larger orchestras. In 1989, he wrote and arranged a full album of material for a large string ensemble and voices. Paying homage to his hometown, Ahmad named the work Pittsburgh. Richard Evans, who orchestrated and co-produced the recording, was faced with an immediate problem when he sat down to match the string section with Ahmad Jamal's own sense of trio arranging.
The thing is that when I'm writing for him and say we've recorded this stuff, then I'm going to put strings on it, and I'm going to put horns on it, French horns, and I'm going to put horns. What should I write? Then it dawns on me, I thought, listen, there's nothing I can do better than what he's doing in his left hand.
In 1993, 35 years after the famous recording at the Pershing Room, Ahmad Jamal returned to Chicago. And while the Pershing was gone, his audience was still there, and they were as devoted as ever. Chicago Revisited, with John Hurd on bass and Yoron Israel on drums, was a reminder of the discipline and simplicity of earlier Ahmad Jamal. But for many, there was also a new level of intensity and musical curiosity. In recent years, Ahmad Jamal has opened up his trio to a number of soloists, including Donald Byrd and George Coleman. He's also added more percussion to his ensembles. To many of his contemporaries, he's become a more physical player.
Ahmad was a bit more relaxed in style in the 50s, and now it sounds like he's going for the juggler almost every time out.
Ramsey Lewis.
I don't mean to say it sounds frantic at all, but there's much more intensity and complexity in his playing these days. He seems to be searching for something. Fortunately for us, through his journeys, they're very interesting where he takes us. But he plays many more notes today than he did during that period we referred to earlier at the Pershing Lounge.
Writer Bob Blumenthal.
He has a relationship to his instrument that is extremely strong and probably as strong as any, as Sonny Rollins' relationship to the tenor saxophone. And I think the more Jamal has lived with the piano, the more he wants to get out of the piano. And that's the sense I get when I see him perform now and when I hear some of the later recordings, that he's just getting deeper and deeper into his instrument.
Ahmad Jamal's Flight, from The Essence, Part 1. Ahmad Jamal on piano, James Kamak on bass, Idris Muhammad on drums, and Manolo Badrina on percussion. The material on The Essence and many of Ahmad Jamal's recent recordings was primarily written by Jamal. That's a major shift from his earlier recordings, when he relied on a large body of standards.
All of us have done that. Charlie Parker did it. This is the body of work. This is the unique thing about our industry. We start playing songs of others and we interpret them beyond the concept. But now I'm doing 70% my compositions and 30% the compositions of others. I am doing most of my things now.
Performers often measure their status within their art form by two yardsticks, the sentiments of peers and by those who are beginning to come up through the system. It's difficult to find anyone in either category who doesn't sing the praises of Ahmad Jamal. Singer Shirley Horn once said, "I heard Ahmad Jamal and fell in love with him. While Oscar Peterson is my Rachmaninoff, Ahmad Jamal is my Debussy." In 1994, Ahmad Jamal was the recipient of the Distinguished American Jazz Master Fellowship Award from the National Endowment for the Arts. And as for the younger musicians, bassist James Kamak sums up the experience of many who continue to learn volumes from Ahmad Jamal's approach to rhythm and harmony.
It's been a tremendous music lesson for me, incredible music lesson. It's taught me all the things we talked about, space, arrangement, the concept, and I guess one of the biggest concepts I've gained from him is support. Being with him, I've learned to be very, very supportive of the artists that I'm working with and to be very, very sensitive to what they're playing, what I'm hearing around me, what I'm feeling around me.
I can't think of many pianists in the last 30 years that in some way, directly or indirectly, hasn't been influenced by Ahmad Jamal's approach.
Pianist Ramsey Lewis.
When it's all said and done, along with Earl Garner and George Shearing and Bud Powell and all the other greats for what they added to the development of jazz piano, Ahmad Jamal will definitely be among the top 10 as a major contributor to the development of jazz piano.
Now in his late 60s, Ahmad Jamal still pushes himself. He maintains a rigorous touring schedule at festivals and clubs, from Newport to Paris. And when you see him in concert or hear his recordings, you can always expect something familiar and something different. Like a true artist, Ahmad Jamal remains a work in progress.
No one ever does everything in this world or accomplishes everything that they intend to do. But you reach a happy medium, of course. Many things are always left undone, but I'm beginning to be able to articulate more of my thoughts than I ever have.
Our profile of Ahmad Jamal was produced and written by Greg Fitzgerald. We'd like to say a special thanks to Verve Records and Elora Management for all their help on this show. Thanks also to NPR's New York and Chicago bureaus, Monitor Radio, WBEZ in Chicago, and WCVE in Richmond, Virginia. A special thanks to NPR's Making the Music Project team and producer Margaret Howes. Jazz Profiles is produced by Tim Owens, assistant producer Madeline Smith. Executive producers are Mary Beth Kirshner and Murray Horwitz.